Hello, everyone, and welcome to this virtual college coach panel brought to you by the American Volleyball Coaches Association and our affiliate partner, the Badger Region. My name is Joya Pollard. I'm the membership and communication specialist for the AVCA. Before we get started, I just want to talk briefly about our partnership with our USAV regions. These regions are all proud members of the AVCA Region Affiliate Partner Program. The RAP program is designed to link college and youth volleyball by providing regions with information on colleges in their area, familiarizing them with various recruiting rules, providing opportunities for engagement and recognition, and sharing educational materials. The benefits include a region-specific map of college programs, general information on recruiting and terminology, a college coaches panel, and educational materials for club coaches. Uh, You will also have options to participate in AVCA award programs. So today's panel will be recorded and registrants will be able to receive this recording within 72 hours. We will start by having each coach introduce themselves and go ahead and talk briefly about their specific division. If you do have any questions during this panel, please feel free to type them into the questions box and we will get to them during the panel. So let's go ahead and get started. By division. So Geoff, if you want to go ahead and kick it off for us and just talk briefly about your division.
Yeah, you can't see me. I'm in Central America, so I apologize for that. But so if you lose me, that's what happened. My name's Geoff Carlston. I coached at Concordia University, St. Paul, when they transitioned from NAIA to Division II back in, I believe it was 2000. And I was a volunteer coach with Mike Hebert for a while at University of Minnesota. Then got the gig at Ohio University back in 2003, was there for 5 years, and then I was at Ohio State for 12. So I know there's lots of people here. Sharon and others have coached at a lot of different levels, so by no means am I an expert at it, but I guess I'm here representing Division I, so glad to be here.
My name is Giedre. I just go by G, and I am, well, based on my name, I started in international. I'm originally from Lithuania, and I came to the States and I played at junior college, transferred to D1, but now I'm coaching and I have coached at D3, D1, and I'm currently representing Division II, Fort Lewis College, which is in Durango, Colorado. And yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Sharon Dingman. I'm currently coaching at the University of Chicago, which is a Division III institution. But like Geoff, I've been at the Division I level for several years, and now I'm in my 7th season at the University of Chicago.
Am I the next one up? Hi, everybody. I'm JW Kieckhefer. I'm the men's volleyball coach at Carthage College, Division III school on the men's side. I also was the assistant coach at Purdue Fort Wayne before this job, and that's a Division I program. So I've kind of spanned all the levels of men's volleyball.
Kyle McCall. I am at McHenry County College, and we are at NJCAA Division II school. I've been there for 8 seasons.
All right. We also have Scott on here as well. Scott, do you have any words you would like to share with the region before we kick things off?
I'll just take a moment to welcome everybody tonight. Thanks for joining us. I'm the operations manager with Badger Region Volleyball. I just want to thank all the coaches for joining us tonight. I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions with all the changes and things over the last year. So hopefully everybody finds tonight informative and helpful. And also just a quick reminder to all the attendees that our awards program with the AVCA, the nomination period is now open for Club Director of the Year as well as the Coach of the Year awards program. So for more information on that, you can check out our website, badgervolleyball.org, or send us an email at membership@badgervolleyball.org. Thanks again for joining us this evening.
Awesome. All right, well, let's get started with the first question, and I will go ahead and kick this off over to G. First question is, are there any specific academic criteria for your division?
I think we are kind of in between the academic, high academic requirements for D3 typically, and in between Division 1. We don't necessarily, as Division 2, have a criteria. You just have to be eligible. But as a recruit, your big money will come from the academics. Just like the academic and athletic scholarship balance. And unique about Division 2, we have some athletic scholarship, which is just a pool of money, and we can actually divide it however really we want or how we fit and what a budget really relies. As far as the academics, we have a lot of merit scholarships, so the better your academic standing, the more money you would get. So just depending on the school requirements, and that would be a big piece for you as a recruit that would make a difference in, funding your degree.
So since this is a very specific question, I'm going to go ahead and kick it off to everybody. So I'll go ahead and kick it next to Sharon, if you could explain the academic criteria for Division 3.
There's no specific academic requirement for the division. Every institution is going to have, different standards that need to be met. And that's just, you have to do your research for sure. And there's a wide variety. You go with like schools in our conference that are super high academic to schools that aren't going to be as academic. It's important to know that Division 3 does not offer any athletic scholarship money. And again, institutionally, there will be, I'm sure, different scholarships available, whether it's merit money. Every institution is so different. So there's no set standard other than just make sure that you have a pretty good sense of what your academics are and how they would fit into that institution. Just relative to, like what we're very high academic. So it's always good to, before you spend a lot of time emailing schools, emailing coaches, that you have a pretty good understanding if you're at the right academic level for that institution.
Geoff?
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, like Sharon, every school is so different. So I think, the big takeaway from this is you need to do some homework and communicate with whatever division you're at, whatever coach you're going to be with, because even within the Big Ten, there's such a wide range. So I think with COVID, it's a little fluid now too, with the sliding scale and everything with ACTs and SATs. But really, for us, we always, if we looked at test scores and GPA a lot, because we knew first and foremost that gave us a good insight in terms of who we were dealing with, but also that was just one piece of the story. So for us, it really came down to making sure it was a good fit, not just academically, but for that person as a whole. I'm a firm believer in there are great programs at all levels, and I think a lot of student athletes and families get starstruck by Division 1, which I think is a huge mistake. Academically, size of the school, level, balance to some extent. So for me, I know I'm not exactly answering the question, but I wanted to make sure my thought is, academics are one piece. If our school is very different than Sharon's school in terms of academics, Ohio State was, and but man, the volleyball level is very high at her school. So I think the big takeaway would be make sure you do your homework and don't take away. If you're looking at just Division 1, I think that's a big mistake, especially if you're open and geographically and open with the size of the school. I have a lot of my former players when I coach club who are who are D3 coaches, and it's a great balance and really high level volleyball at all levels. So, but academics is really, to Sharon's point, is very personalized per school.
JW?
Yeah, there's not a whole ton to add there, right? You covered the Division I stuff, the Division III stuff. I think on the men's side, in terms of academic standards, we're a little different because, especially the Division I side, because they kind of package both academic and athletic. So just kind of the big standard there, just like everywhere, the better you are as a student, the more money you're going to get, whether it's just that academic package or being able to package academic and athletic scholarship together. So the standards are higher in terms of like the low end to get into Division I, but in terms of what you're really looking for, it's about the school, like Geoff and Sharon and G mentioned. So just making sure you do your homework for the specific school. And there's great academic institutions at Division I and great academic institutions at Division III all the way through. So it's more about your personal fit in terms of the academic side of it.
Kyle?
Not a ton to add there. I think everybody kind of covered a little bit of what I was going to probably say. At the two-year school level, there's Division I, Division II, and Division III. Academically, we don't have the scholarship opportunities at my school. Some Division IIs and IIIs do. But what we do have is we have athletic aid. So Division I and Division II, two-year colleges have athletic scholarship available. So, but as to academic requirements to get in, really it's school by school, like most have said. And then to stay eligible, you have to carry a 2.0 or better. So our eligibility requirements are not quite as strict as some of the other schools.
Okay. Next question. I'll kick it off to JW. This question is, what does the recruiting process look like and who is involved in that process?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think obviously the men's game is very different than the women's game. A lot of men's players don't start playing until they're in high school, specifically in a region like ours where volleyball on the boys' side isn't extraordinarily popular. It's popular kind of in the cities, but I grew up in Wisconsin, so most people don't start playing until they're in high school. And I think the Division I level, I think, starts recruiting a little bit younger. Now that the rules are different now. It used to be they could reach out to people who were younger. Now they can't reach out to players who, I believe, until their junior year in high school in terms of talking to them. So it's just a very different process. At this point, Division I can't start recruiting you until you're a junior. At the Division III level, we can have the communication when you're younger, and we can get you on campus, and we can do a lot more things with the visit and the recruiting process. But in terms of the commitments, you're looking more like early junior year for the Division I level on the men's side. And then kind of Division III spans the length. You're kind of looking more like fall of your senior year for the commitments at the Division III level on the men's side. That's more typical for what the men see. But no matter what division you play, there's a lot of recruiting throughout your entire junior and senior year, and specifically sometimes into that summer if you're still not sure where you want to go. Again, boys volleyball is such a smaller sport that people can be recruiting kind of later into the time frame. So I think some boys are worried about, like, if they start their junior year and they don't know where they're going yet, that they're behind. You're not behind. It's super normal to go through your junior year and still not know where you're going on the men's side.
Does anyone want to piggyback off of that as far as the women's side?
Yeah, I'd like to add that I know for a lot of recruits, it's a bit scary of a factor. Like, okay, there's all these rules and they're afraid to reach out, like JW mentioned that, like there's a certain time, like we right now as Division II, we're not allowed to directly communicate with recruits until junior year, prior to a junior year of June 15th. It used to be, and when I was in Division I, it used to be kind of free for all. As long as you're in high school, recruitable age, you can go get it. But it's just all the rules are in place really, in my opinion, is to protect the recruits and so that you have a life and then your coach is not just hounding you down and all these things. So in a way, what I want to say is that you as a recruiter, you cannot really break the recruiting rules. It's up to each coach to let you know, like what are the boundaries that they're working with. So I know recently I got an email from a recruit that's graduating in 2023 or 24, and I'm not allowed to communicate with them. So what we are allowed to do is write you a general response saying about the rules, and this is when we can communicate directly, nothing recruiting wise, so that you are aware, so that you're not just thinking like some coaches might not do it. I'm not sure, but some coaches do let you know, hey, like we would be breaking the rules. Now, if you want to continue communicating and you're still young, you can absolutely do that. You can absolutely write to the coach. You can absolutely go to their camps, do anything that you can text them and all, but just know that they won't be able to respond. And it's one way of staying on the radar for coaches. So we might not be able to, stay in touch with you, but we can keep up with what's going on, what tournaments you're in, and things like that. And it's nice to have that. But again, like, don't worry about breaking the rules. It's really on the coaches, more pressure for them. And rules change every year. And so we don't expect you to keep up with that. And don't beat yourself up when you go, it's like, I really don't know. It's just, we're learning and taking this test every year and rules change all the time.
Yeah, can I add one more thing to that?
Mhm.
That's great. I think one of the things I would really encourage families to do is to ask some really hard questions. Coaches, they're not going to sit here a lot of times. They're not going to necessarily say, hey, you're number 3 on our list, or we've made some offers to other kids. But if you ask directly, I mean, most of the coaches are going to be honest with you. But if you don't ask them about, for example, I mean, you should be asking, okay, how many transfers have you had in the last 5 years? How many kids are leaving? Why is that? And there may be really good reasons, but you want to know these questions. This is a very big decision. And also things, just like where am I at? If I come to the camp, because everyone wants you to come to the camp, right? I mean, why not? But to ask a coach, hey, how serious are you about me? Even that question right there is important, right? Because it just creates a dialogue. It's more direct. You get information, because at some point you just don't have the time to go to 20 different camps or the finances, right? It's just so I think I would not be afraid of being very direct and ask for honest discussions with whatever schools you're looking at. If you're one of my favorite stories is a player just said, look, I want to come to your school. This is where I want to come. Are you going to offer me a scholarship? And I was like, dang, okay. At that point, I was like, give me a minute. Let me talk to you next week. I'm like, I had to go back to my staff and go, okay, first of all, I really appreciate this. This is showing some moxie. I love it. But she was basically saying, hey, if it's okay. If you're not serious about me, then I'm okay with it. Just, I got to know, don't leave me hanging on. So I would really encourage coaches and players to be very direct. And I think the more you can have your student athlete ask the questions, the more you can have your daughter or your sons ask the questions and take the lead. I think that is really, really huge. If I had a nickel for every single time I had a player I asked him a question on their visit and mom or dad started answering the question, I'd probably be a millionaire. And I would just say, look, I really like you, but your daughter's here. We're interested, but I'd really like to hear from your daughter, and if that frustrated them, got them angry, and they didn't come because of that, so be it. But I wanted to hear from the player, from the young woman, not from mom or dad. So anyway, 2 things I would throw out there.
I'm just going to add one thing, just again from the high academic standpoint. So when I talk about that, some people might be more familiar if I were to say the Ivy League. Okay, so would be very similar to our standards of academics. So, and this is true for the Ivies. We recruit a lot against the Ivies. But one really important concept with high academics is not all high academics look the same, and not all high academics can operate on the same calendar, because we'll get kids that are being recruited by the Ivies that might already have what is called a likely letter. And if you're one of those, you'll know what that means. And we cannot send a likely letter out until November. So that's an example, just to remember and to ask that question very pointedly. If you are a high academic, what does your process look like? Because they're all going to look different, even though we are kind of grouped together.
And I would just add, in the recruiting process for the two-year colleges, there's not as many rules as NCAA Division I, II, and III. They kind of give us a lot of flexibility to speak with our potential student athletes. And so you can start those conversations as early or as late as you want. It's fairly common for two-year colleges to be getting some late decisions, but some of the top two-year schools are, already in 2023 and stuff like that, like the big schools. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
Okay. Well, while we're still on the topic, and I'll kick this over to you, Kyle. We were talking about some things that potential recruits should or think about doing. Are there any other do's and don'ts that you think you should share with potential recruits?
I think for us, it's kind of going off of what Geoff said, and the student athlete should be doing the communication, not mom or dad. I think most coaches would want to hear from the player. And I also think that it's okay, if you're not interested in a school, to let them know that you're not really interested in them. But I wouldn't shut the door, because you never know when a transfer opportunity might come, or an injury or something like that, and maybe you need to call that coach because you had a great relationship with them and they just weren't in your top 2 or 3. I think for us, it's kind of the scenarios that we see frequently. So I would just say communicate, and it's okay if it's not your top school, but just let them know so everybody can move on.
I think it's important to reach out to schools. I think some people, especially on the boys' side, just think that, oh, if I play really well, schools are going to reach out to me. And my dream school, if I don't, my dream school sees me play volleyball, they're going to reach out to me. And if they don't reach out to me, then they're not interested. And I really think it's important to, if you're interested in a school, if you really think these 5 schools are the schools that I want to go to send that email, send them some video. Especially highlight video, give them some information on you, whether it's GPA, your spike touch, some different stats that you had in high school or club. Just start that conversation yourself. You never know what that gets to from a college coach. They see it, they get a little interested, and then they come to your court. You can't just expect always coaches to just come to your court and watch you play. So it's important to start that process yourself. And sometimes that gets coaches interested, and you've started the process that way. So don't wait for the college coaches to come to you. Try to take ownership of your process and send some emails out yourself.
I'd like to add to that. When you're writing an email, if there is a school that you're really going for, or some of them, I would say make it personal and make it sound like this is the reason. My parents are alumni, or my grandparents came here, whatever it is this is the reason that's drawing you to. Make it personal. Don't make it long, because just like when you get a long email from coaches, they're probably going to get lost in some of it. Some of the information, we try to make it simple. So if you can make it more personal and just introduce yourself and throw in some of the stats or whatever you think that sets you apart. We get a lot of those emails like, I'm a hard worker and a great team player. And it's like, great, show me. Maybe describe some kind of situation where you showed that or something like that. But I do agree. I don't know about the other coaches, but we get a lot of emails, probably 40, 50 emails a day. So our emails is like swamped with recruiting, with administrative stuff, whatever it is. So just because you don't hear back, don't really get discouraged. Keep writing, keep communicating until you hear that no. But yes, keep your options open. I think a lot of kids set their mind, or some schools or region or division or whatever, and then they don't explore the other options. Just have your mind open about it. And yes, as you go through the process, you're going to start narrowing things down and figure out what's important to you. And yeah, don't be afraid to set yourself apart. Like what Jeff say, ask the tough questions. And I mean, the scholarship information is really important. I think that's a big deciding factor. But I do want to say that just because a school doesn't have athletic scholarship or money or the way the roster distribution worked out, it doesn't have less value on you and what you have to bring just because you're not getting a full ride. You just have to be very honest with yourself and your family and see what could work for you and what could not work for you. Because I know many of the players who went to schools, had full rides, and after a year they transferred because they were completely miserable and or didn't play and they're competitive and they want to play all the time, yet they weren't beating out the other players. So you have to decide what's important to you, and also you don't want to put your family in a hole if the school is expensive and your financial situation needs to be considered. Like, what can I do? So those are the things that you can ask in emails and in conversations that you can have. But again, that's how you set yourself apart and make it personal.
Okay. Next question. I'll kick this over to Sharon. Still going into recruiting. So, since the pandemic, have you made any changes to your recruiting style? And if so, can you kind of briefly explain that?
Yeah, I'm about ready to throw Baller TV through the window because we're all tired of watching Baller TV, although it is a wonderful service to have during a pandemic. We've just had to do more virtual. I would guess we're not unlike everybody on this call and everybody across the country as far as just things that we've had to do virtually, be that virtual campus tours. We've been able to do, again, D3 rules, just like JW touched on, are a little different in when we can communicate. We've done Zoom calls, either a larger group Zoom call, smaller group Zooms. So again, nothing that, sadly, we don't have anything that's been super creative that we're the only ones doing it. But yeah, so just a lot more virtual stuff. And the challenges are, it's just a lot of film watching right now for us. I think D1s, I don't know if Geoff could speak to that. I'm not sure when the calendar changes for D1. While D3 calendar doesn't mesh with the D1, again, there's institutions that have different rules. So I know D3s can go out recruit, but the University of Chicago won't let us go recruit. So again, I think to speak to G is that doesn't mean that we're not interested, because we're not on your court. We're not on anybody's court right now. So yeah, I think that we're doing the same thing everybody else is doing. Just a lot of virtual tours, a lot of Zoom calls.
A lot of Zoom calls.
Okay. So next question. I'll kick it off to Geoff. Since we mentioned about film, what are some common things or some things specifically that you look for when you're looking at film? Because I know, like y'all said, you're watching a lot of film, so I know we can't just watch the entirety of the film, because that will take a very long time. So if there's anything specific that you're looking for or anything like that.
So I'm unmuted now, right?
Yes.
Oh, man, you have so much power there. All right. Well, I'm not watching a lot of film these days, but I can tell you a couple of things. One is, I think keep the film I mean, if you're a kid who can touch the rim and dunk a basketball, that might be all you need to do, you know, to get a lot of interest. But I think if you're that 5'8" outside hitter, or that undersized outside hitter, or libero, you need to find a way to stand out. Film is just a way, in my opinion, and other people can disagree, but film is just a way to get me intrigued so I can come watch you at some point. So live footage, you know, I don't need to necessarily watch you serve a ball unless you got to jump and rip an absolutely crazy jump serve. I don't need to see you serve a ball. I just don't. I'm sorry, I can teach that. If you're hitting the ball 70 miles an hour on a jump serve, okay, cool, put that in there. But you know, I think it really depends on what you want to do and how you want to market yourself. So, for example, I talk to a lot of players. I'm like, okay, do you want to be a setter who can pass, or do you want to be a libero who can set? Because that's really, really different, right? And you want to be able to say, hey, I want to be a setter. I can set the ball, but if in a crunch, if I need to, I can play great defense and pass. If you want to be a libero, man, if you're a libero, a high-level libero who can set the ball if something goes down, you want to make sure that people can see that. But you know, for me, shorter the better, more concise, direct, to the point of who you are. That's what I would say about that. I would also say, again, I'm just going off script a little bit here, but my biggest pet peeve is asking potential recruits, hey, what do you do outside of volleyball? And if they say nothing, I just about want to kick myself, because that is just not a great answer, right? So I would always challenge that. Okay, what do you mean nothing? You don't do anything. You just go to school, you hang out with your friends, and you play volleyball. That's it. And then you get to talking. Oh, well, I play the ukulele. Oh, cool. Can you send me something? Can you send me one of your songs? Oh, well, yeah. Cool. I draw. Okay, what do you draw? Anime. Oh, cool. Can you send me? You know, now we're getting somewhere, right? But it's so easy for so many players to say, well, not much. I don't do anything. So
Yeah, I think it's important, if Geoff cut out there, I think it's important to keep it short. Like G said, we get a lot of emails. And what Geoff said, like short, like put in there what
everyone says they're competitive, but I want to see it. So that's my thoughts.
I just think you put in what makes you different, what makes you great at your skill. Like if you're a great outside, what makes you a great outside? That's what I want to see. And it gets me to your court, and you've kind of done the trick. We don't need to see just kind of what makes you unique.
Just to add on the video thing, I do agree with Geoff, and like keep it simple, keep it short. I wouldn't start with the serve either. I think if you want to put the serve, just don't be the first thing that you put. Like if you're an outside, we want to see how high you can touch. We want you to see also like hitting, for example. Like yes, we want to see your range and what you can reach. Don't forget the blocking part of it in defense if you wanted to play all the way around. And so then you can, and also the best view I would say for me personally is from the end line. So if you have film from the end line, I think a lot of coaches would prefer that. You can also ask these questions because sometimes you set a game film and it's from the side, like from such a like far away from the bleachers that it's hard to even tell which person you are unless some arrow is pointing and can't tell that. But yeah, I think preference to watching somebody live is definitely huge for me. I think for a lot of coaches, get you intrigued. So just set yourself apart. Spend like 2 minutes. Recruiting services are good for helping you to get yourself out there, but I think in my experience, it gets overlooked over if you take your time to write somebody in, you know, versus like some services sending you and they have no idea anything about you. And so I think you're the best advertisement, and we can most likely tell when it's your parents, right? Because there's there's a different way when a teenager talks to you and when the parent writes you. So, and I think when Geoff was talking about like, hey, tell us about you playing ukulele or arts or whatever, we're just trying to get to know you and see if you would be a great culture fit, because there's more to it than just volleyball, because you might be a great stud, but if you can get along with the team, then it creates a problem. So getting to know you, it just sets you apart from other people. I mean, I had a player write me as like, hey, my parents graduated from the rivalry school, but I heard that the kid's supposed to be rebel, so I'm interested in your school. I'm like, my attention, so it was just like those kind of little things. It doesn't have to be anything huge, but yeah, keep your email simple, keep your video simple, do a little highlight. I know I prefer when you can finish the play. Sometimes it's hard to judge when in the middle of something like the video stops and then here you are and then it points and it just kind of disrupts the play. Maybe do it before if you break it down the film where it's like pointing and or a little circle or highlight, whatever it is, to make sure that we know it's you. Just try not to do it in the middle of the point because it's just choppy video. It's hard to tell the velocity of the ball, and like if you got a good dig, I would recommend for you to have a say in your video as well, because what you think is a good play and what you know is a good play because you have been putting hours in your development and what your position requires is one, but what your parents think is an amazing play can be completely different. I mean, sometimes I see you like run into a table or you dive somewhere where you can, as coaches will look is like, you could have just taken a step there, like where you're just standing straight up. So really filter and kind of see your place and have a say in it instead of putting it all your parents, because they might be putting something else that you wanted to display.
All right, next question. We'll kick it over to JW. Basically, for talking as a potential recruit, how do I know if a school is interested in me?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think one, if you're sending an email to them and they're not responding to you, they're probably not interested in you. That's kind of the first part of it. And I think you should be consistent. And if they're not responding, you should probably respond until they tell you no. But it's a pretty good idea that if they're just not responding, they're probably looking at somebody else right now. I think the other thing too is if you can kind of feel through maybe a general email, right? That could just be some kind of like general copy and paste response. I really think what Geoff and G were talking about in terms of like, if they're asking like, what do you do outside of volleyball? Or if they're asking you like, what defines you as a volleyball player? Like those specific questions about you and really trying to get to know you. That's how you know somebody's really interested in you, when they're trying to drill down on some of the intricacies of who you are. I think then you're getting a good feel for that coach is really interested in me, and that's a campus that I should probably go visit. So that's probably when you're going to know that a college coach is interested in you, when they're starting to ask those questions.
I think I would like to add to that. Just kind of slightly up to the side. Don't be afraid to request a phone call. I think it shows, especially with the school, like that you're interested in that. Hey, I'm okay with talking to a coach on the phone, and don't worry, they will be in charge and they'll make it easy for you. It's also a good way for you to get to know a coach. So if you're writing emails and coaches are busy and not getting to you back, or they are, just don't be afraid to talk to them on the phone. And you don't have to have a script, but just think of some of the things that are important to you, whether about the team, culture, school, whatever it is. And it can be as short as 5 minutes, or typically it tends to be longer, just if you can have a conversation. But it shows a lot of interest, and I think coaches want to know if you're just fishing around for schools or if you just really are interested. So just make sure you follow up and do that. And if coaches don't respond to you, yes, it is a good indication. But remember, this has, at least for me, it has been a crazy year. Not everybody has a staff where like Division Ones have a dedicated recruiting coordinator, you know, and then we're 5 people and volunteers and all these things, where like in smaller schools, you know, it's just, for example, my school is just me and my assistant. And so juggling a COVID season and year and all that is just a little bit much. So I think if you can be a little bit more patient through a COVID year now, and I think as everybody just kind of keeping up and trying to, I would say, yeah, don't be afraid to reach out, find a phone number, call them, leave them a voicemail. Most likely you'll get an answer, yes or no, much sooner than just kind of waiting for things to happen.
Okay. Next question, I'll kick it to Kyle. But this may be specific to all of you, so feel free to piggyback off with your personal experiences. But Kyle, what does a typical day or week look like for a player during the season?
So in season, our players will have class Monday through Thursday. We don't have class on Friday because we travel quite a bit once our season starts. Classes are normally done by 2:20. Then we'll have some study tables, followed by practice, followed by lifting. So it's a pretty full day. And that's pretty much what happens Monday through Thursday. If we have a match on that day, we'll have a serve and pass session, which is basically just come in, get some reps from like 2:30 to 3:30. Then we'll have a team meal. Then you know, we're courtside by 4:35ish, 6 o'clock start. So not all 2-year schools do that. That's something that we do that we think sets us apart a little bit. But we try to mirror what happens at the bigger school, so that when our players try to go play years 3 and 4 at a bigger school, they're prepared for what that potential day might look like.
I think that's pretty typical for a match day for a lot of people in terms of serve and pass some point during the day, match at night. During the season, we kind of start early on in the season, practicing 2 hours a day, going pretty much every weekday, and we take Sundays off. And then as you go throughout the season, you start playing less and less. So right now we're on an NCAA tournament run. We play next week. So our practices are typically like an hour and a half top. So we're getting in the gym, playing some sixes, getting out. So it just depends on what point of the season you're in, about how often you're practicing. We take Mondays off now at this point of the season, stuff like that, where we're trying to more maintain bodies. But the beginning of the season is kind of a grind where you're going 6 days a week, lifting twice a week.
I think it's important to realize that, you know, in college, you just have to do a whole lot of balancing with your time. I think, yes, you're running around doing club, you're doing other sports and all these things, and those are great, but the academics are right. Schools, you get your academics right, because if you fall below a certain GPA, you will be ineligible. So no matter how good of a player you are, you won't be able to play. And that's a big frustration for coaches. So first things first, like really start working on balancing your day right now and putting priority on academics, and knowing that you will have, you know, you also have your training room. So it's like preparation before practice. Maybe you'll be in a training room getting treatment, or afterwards, or we call it prehab. You might be super healthy, but it's just anything, you know, either having a shoulder warmed up or back, whatever thing is. So pretty much your time is really, really taken. So you have to be really, really good at just really balancing everything out and not allowing anything to fall through, especially in the season and fall. I know for men's, their season is in spring, for women's is in the fall. So as you come into college, you're just gonna get 2 weeks or something like that before the competition really starts. So you have sometimes 2 days, and then you go academics, then you have your practices, then your game preparation, all these things. So you just have to be really prepared. And no matter what anybody really tells you, it's everybody has a personal experience. Some people are good at organizing themselves, some people are not. I found a lot of kids are doing much better when they get a like a notebook with all the calendars and everything in, where they can write everything down, and it just helps them to balance things out.
Okay. Next question, I'll kick it off to Sharon. So for off season, what are your off season expectations for a player?
So that's really where the Division III model starts to look a lot different from Division I and Division II, because so in women's volleyball, the NCAA allows you 16 days in a non-traditional season that you can be with your team at practice in Division III. But I say that a little bit cautiously because every conference can manage that how they want. They just can't go above 16. So 16 is the max that the NCAA allows for any type of team training together as a team. So outside of that, everything has to be on a volunteer basis. I mean, we're very limited on the number of times that we can even meet with student athletes. It's literally like twice a year that you can have meetings with student athletes as well. Although now we do have a leadership council meetings that the NCAA has implemented for us. So, our expectations are, again, not unlike most D3s that are super competitive. Our players are expected that they're doing a lot on their own, whether it's with our athlete development coach, open gyms, things like that. And then again, this summers, they get a program from our athlete development coach, and our expectation is that they do that. So they're physically prepared to come in and start preseason. So that's where Division III really looks a lot different. And that's the Division III model. It really does encompass the entire student athlete experience. I mean, I coached Division I for 30 years, and how I always explain the difference is if you want volleyball to be your full experience, and that's an amazing experience, then you should play Division I or Division II, where you're going to be in the gym a lot more. If you want volleyball to enhance your experience, and it's an amazing experience, then you should look at Division III. Just again, our rules really allow you to pursue a lot of different passions that you have in that non-traditional season time. So in the winter and the spring. And then obviously for men, that would be in the fall, since their season's in the spring.
I mean, for us at the 2-year school level, we're allowed 8 hours a week when we are off season. For summer, we don't do a ton of indoors training. We tell our girls to get outside and go play grass or beach or do anything other than sixes indoors, just so that when they come back in the fall, they're probably a little bit more refreshed, kind of just recharging that battery a little bit. But that's just something specific to our school. But the NJCAA rules permit 8 hours a week of training.
I think Kyle brought up a good point. I think it's a great question to ask of your coach. What does the summer looks like? Because some coaches require summer school and coming in and mandatory camps or helping at camps or whatever it is, and how early you come in. I think it varies by division. When you come back to August or September, whatever that is. So it's a great question for any recruit to ask, especially on the visit, and ask, what does the summer looks like? So then you can also plan for that, and Christmas break and all these kind of things. And it will vary by institution.
All right. So we have 10 minutes left, so I'm going to go ahead and just kick it off to everybody. If you have any final thoughts that you want to share with everybody before we conclude this panel. So I'll kick it off to Geoff first. So Geoff.
Yeah, I think back to my original point is certainly be open-minded to all levels and geographies. I think the college experience in general should be really formative and transformative for you. And so it's a great first, a lot of 16, 17, 18-year-olds maybe haven't done a ton of self-reflection. They've been, I think, moving forward through the process of inertia is a mistake, right? Just, oh, I've always done it. It's what I should be doing. It's what people expect me to do. I think, being really mindful of how you're going about it will frame, maybe the schools you should be looking at. So that's one thing. Two, I would echo, I think, what G said, that I work with a lot of Division I head coaches right now. Really some of the people who've won national championships and doing a lot of work with these people, and they are struggling. They are really struggling. And I've also had a lot of friends and kind of working with some people who are kind of navigating this process with their daughters. And my message is this, is that coaches, first of all, administrations are struggling, ADs are struggling, coaches are struggling. They don't know who's coming back next year, who's staying. There's so many things right now. It's just, it is a unique time. And I would echo patience. If someone doesn't get back to you via an email, it doesn't right now, I don't know if it necessarily means that they're not interested in you. But I think that goes back to the original question. When that time comes, like, hey, where are you at? Do you even have a space for me in my age, my position? Are you interested? If you are, awesome. You're one of the schools I'm really interested in. If you are, let's do this, and whenever we can. But I think it's just things are the patience and sort of letting go of the fears of, oh my God, I'm not going to get a place. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be able to go to a school. I think those things they're not in your control as a family right now. All you can do is play volleyball when you can and communicate as best you can and do your homework. And there's so many things that you are not in control of as a family and recruiting, that I think it's a really great exercise for a young person and for families to let go a little bit and really kind of come from a place of open-mindedness and not fear of, oh my God, what might not happen. If you want to play volleyball and you're really committed to it, you're probably going to find a place, and it may not even be the place that you are looking at right now. A lot of people on this phone call will probably end up going to a school they may not have even heard of or thought of yet. Maybe some people on this call, you go, hey, I like G, I want to go check out Durango. That sounds awesome. So I think being open-minded and being patient and trusting the process is a huge piece of it. So don't overthink it and don't be acting in fear, because that ends up being the wrong decision almost all the time.
I would just say find the right fit for you. So it's really about knowing and exploring really like what's important to me. How close do I want to be to home? If you're from Hawaii and you're being recruited in Alaska, are you okay with some snow? So those are the things that you have to consider. And I overall just have to say that recruiting process can be challenging and frustrating and emotional, and it's kind of up and down. And one day you're excited because the coach is just talking to you, and next day, they gave up the spot to someone else. It's a process, and it's a long process. So one thing I want to encourage, all the recruits is just kind of like buckle up for the ride and try not to compare yourself with everybody else and all your teammates and all your club mates who are, like I'm talking since I was 14, what's a certain school or what it is. And because it's just really, I think it's tough because I think we tend to think like, well, what's wrong with me? I'm not getting any answers and all these things. And it can be quite discouraging. Like I said, and from my name, it's very visible. I'm from Lithuania originally, and we don't start recruiting and all that till like senior year in high school. So, I didn't know anything about NCAA, anything. I'm like, oh, cool. I get to go to states. I get to play volleyball, play and get a scholarship, all these kind of things. So, So in the way for me it worked out, I did not know. I probably would have been way stressed out and thinking like something is off, I'll never find a school. So it's just know that check out the rosters, check out the rosters for the team that you're interested in, because if you're a libero, it's very challenging. They have 4 people on a roster. Think about that, and think about the depth charts that they have. Ask those kind of questions. And I would just say buckle up. Try not to take things as personal. We try to view these things more of not that like something is against you. It's just about a fit. And really, if you want to stand out and set yourself apart, just allow yourself to be seen for who you are. Like allow to know like what kind of person you are, what's interests you, because like I said, if you are interested in the school, but culture fit might not be the right thing for you. And so if you're just putting up the best face all the time, and then like, what's the low look like? You might want to figure that out for the school and how they're going to support you, or how what does that look like? And do people quit? What's the culture like? So you need to kind of figure these things out through your journey and not be afraid of asking the tough questions.
I will just say, for the Badger region specifically, there are not a lot of 2-year schools in Wisconsin. I think there's only 3, maybe 4. But the 2-year school route can be very advantageous, both financially and athletically. So I wouldn't rule out the 2-year school option.
My 2 cents is try to do your research and put some work to it in the front end. Like everybody has their rosters online. Watch a team play and try to have a good feel for like, okay, this is kind of where my level is at, right? On the men's side, like, you take a look at some rosters. If they have a bunch of 6'11" middles on their roster and you're a 6'1" middle, probably not the right place to go. If they have a bunch of 6'3" outsides and you're a 6'3" outside, boom, that's a place I can go, right? So I think that coaches tend to recruit similar type players, and it's an easy way to just do some research on a school, both academically, right? Seeing if it's the right fit for you academically, but also athletically. What do these coaches look for? What do they like? And then ask those questions when you get a coach over email. What do you look for in an outside hitter? What do you look for in a libero? And kind of match that up with maybe your play style and if it's the right fit for you.
All right. Scott, do you have any final words before we wrap things up?
No, I don't have anything to add. Just want to extend another thank you to all the coaches for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us tonight. And same for all the attendees. Thank you for joining us. Please reach out with any questions.
Thank you, Scott. All right. Thank you, coaches. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. And I want to thank all you attendees that was able to attend. Just a reminder that this recording will be available to you all within 72 hours. But once again, a big thank you to the Badger region for helping the AVCA provide opportunities such as this. Once again, thank you, everybody, and I hope everybody has a wonderful evening.